Ecowas allegedly adopted an irrational and unacceptable stance by imposing sanctions that were illegal, illegitimate, inhumane and irresponsible, in violation of its own statutes.
3 African countries have withdrawn from a group of other African countries because they feel like the big group doesn't actually work for the interest of the people of Africa. What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. It's always a good pleasure to speak to you. Today it's a big news. ECOWAS is at it again. Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali, you remember these countries. We've spoken about this a few times. Here's Niger, here's Burkina Faso, here's Mali. Beautiful places, beautiful people. They have withdrawn from ECOWAS. ECOWAS used to be a group of 15 African countries of West Africa that came together economically. It was called the Economic Community of West African States. ECOWAS had 15 member states. 8 of these are French-speaking, 5 are English-speaking, and 2 are Portuguese-speaking. All current members joined the community as founding members in May 1975. 1975 is when ECOWAS was founded. The goal of this was to create a community where African countries could work together, to open doors, to remove limitation, allowing the people to exchange goods and services so that the continent can move forward. It was a way for African people to show that we are one people, at least here in West Africa. We are one people and our goal is to work together for a brighter destiny. ECOWAS was founded with the goals of African freedom, but unfortunately, many people feel like today ECOWAS is very much controlled by the West. Now, Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger have withdrawn from ECOWAS officially.
After 49 years, the valiant people of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger regretfully and with great disappointment observe that the organization has drifted from the ideals of its founding fathers and the spirit of Pan-Africanism. They argue that ECOWAS, under foreign influence, betrayed its founding principles and became a threat to its member states and their populations, which it was supposed to ensure the well-being of.
Why is that? What do they have in common? Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger have all of them lately reasoned against their government. So the people of these countries say, enough. We don't want to be led by you anymore, because they felt like their government were actually working for the interest of the West countries instead of working for the interest of the African people. Let me remind you, the reason why we have French-speaking Africans, English-speaking Africans, Portuguese-speaking Africans, it's because of colonization. As you all know by now, in 1984, the Europeans went to sit in Berlin to discuss how to separate Africa. Africa used to be one big block. There was no countries in Africa. It was just one big block where everybody lived in peace, clans, families and tribes. They lived like brothers. They intermarried. They moved as they pleased. When the European came, most European countries wanted a piece of Africa. Now, in order for them not to fight each other, they went to Berlin in Germany and had a discussion. They said, you know what? I'm going to take this part, okay? I'm going to go this way. I'm going to take Senegal, Togo, Mali, and others, and they're going to be the French colony. Then the British went to take Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, and other countries. Same for the Portuguese and others. And when they came into Africa, they imposed the people of Africa to speak their languages. They forced their religion upon them, telling them that their religion was satanic and demonic. Their African traditions were obscure and dark, and they should abandon them. That is how you find yourself today with Africans, some speaking French, others speaking English, and others speaking Portuguese. Now, in 1960, there was a liberation freedom wave where most African countries got their independence, except for South Africa. The Europeans say you can now guide yourself. You're now matured enough to run your own countries. We are going back to Europe. But that wasn't really the truth. Because the truth is, the Europeans still had the economies of many African countries by the balls. Now, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have another thing in common. They were all colonized by France. And for the longest time, many people of these countries felt like France still owed a huge power over their country. Let's take the example of Niger. Niger is a country that has an abundant amount of uranium. And uranium is a mineral that you need for electrical production. And France got a lot of uranium from Niger at a very cheap price.
The Nigerian government and French nuclear firm Orano have signed a deal to extend the operational life of Niger's sole uranium mine.
Where they produced their own electricity, they had so much electricity, they began to sell electricity to other European countries.
France, normally a top European electricity exporter.
Meanwhile, many people in Niger were living in the dark. They had no electricity home. They had to import electricity from Nigeria. Niger finally decided to topple the president, Mohamed Bazoum.
We, the Defense and Security Forces, under the National Committee for the Salvation of the People, have decided to put an end to the regime you know.
Who for them was working for the interest of the French people. And after they did that, France was not happy very much.
D'abord, je dire ici avec beaucoup de clarté que la France condamne absolument, avec la plus grande fermeté, ce coup d'État militaire contre un dirigeant démocratiquement élu, courageux, et qui fait pour son pays les réformes et les investissements dont il a besoin, et que nous accompagnons comme nous avons accompagné son prédécesseur depuis le début.
The French president voiced himself saying we condemn what's happening in Niger. And the Nigerian people asked the French ambassador in Niger to come and have a meeting with him. But the French president refused to do so, by arrogance. A few days later, a French ambassador was asked to leave the country in 48 hours. And it created an enormous amount of tension between the two countries. Later on, after the French were kicked out of Niger, Ecowas, which is the group of 15 West African countries, came pressuring Niger.
We will not allow coup after coup West Africa's president.
Asking them to reinstate Mohamed Bazoum, the president that was just toppled. The people of Niger refused to do so. Then Ecowas was gearing up to send military force to go and destroy everybody and reinstate the president that they just toppled. And at that time, Mali, Burkina Faso came together and said, you know what? Whoever dares to attack Niger will be declaring war against Mali and Burkina Faso.
4. Warn that any military intervention against Niger will be considered as a declaration of war against Burkina Faso and Mali.
So they literally provided them support. They say if you dare go attack Niger, we're gonna be at war with you. And that's how ECOWAS started and stopped their action. We have typically a case of 3 countries that are going through the same hardships, the same difficulties. They're coming together. And you know what happens generally is when people are going through the same difficulties, what they do is they sympathize with each other. They will become very good friends because they understand each other's pain. And these countries have been sanctioned by ECOWAS, meaning because they are enclaves. As you can look at the map, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are countries in the continent of Africa. They do not have any ocean or any sea next to them. So they cannot export or import anything without going through other countries. Now, these other countries have refused to allow the goods and services to be provided internationally into these countries. So, in other words, they can be dependent in these countries in order to survive. The main reason why these countries don't want anything to do with ECOWAS is because they feel like France still has a very strong hand over ECOWAS. ECOWAS is supposed to be a very free organization that unites Africans. But unfortunately, they get some sponsorship from strangers, from other countries. Now, they say the hand that gives is always above the hand that receives. Is this true? How can you say no to people that provide for you? It's not possible. How can you say no or oppose somebody that gives you money to operate? It is not possible. Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali accuse ECOWAS of not doing anything when we're going through terrorist attacks. These countries have been riddled with terrorist attack. But not a day did ECOWAS say, well, let's come together, fellas. Let's go do something about this. Since you are living a very difficult situation with terrorists, let's bring soldiers together and go and finish them. They've never done that. But they were ready. They brought soldiers together, finances together, logistics together to go and topple the new people in Niger, the people that just came in trying to find their freedom. So, when it comes to real problems such as terrorists, you do nothing about it. But when we're trying to take back the lead of our country, then you are ready to send military and soldiers and equipment. It makes no sense. The decision by the 3 announced in a simultaneous joint statement in their national television channel is a blow to the bloc of regional integration. In response to the withdrawal, ECOWAS say it has yet to receive a formal notification about the withdrawal and decline further comment. So they're waiting for formal notification from these countries. And also they say juridically, legally, they have to wait 1 year before their withdrawal is actually effective. But in the meantime, we see some of these countries doing new things. Like the minister of Niger went to Iran, trying to build new relationships. Iran affirmed its desire to help Niger overcome international sanctions imposed following the 2023 coup, because Iran is the most sanctioned country in the world. They are willing to help Niger overcome these sanctions. They say we condemn the cruel sanctions which are imposed by the system of domination, and we will share the experience we have in this area with our brothers of Niger. So just imagine, Iran is calling Niger our brothers. That's interesting. This was said by the Vice President Mohamed Kober, receiving Ali Mahaman of Niger. So again, fellas, I think this is very interesting to see. 3 countries that have been fighting very hard to try to find their own destiny because they feel like France still has a very strong hand controlling what's happening in Africa. They don't want anything to do with that anymore. And because they feel like ECOWAS, which is a big group of 15 different countries, is still being controlled, still being told what to do by French and other countries, they prefer to withdraw from ECOWAS. That's the big problem. But in the meantime, we all know Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali are looking to create their own currency. Yeah, because many countries in West Africa still use the CFA franc. Yeah, this is a French colony currency. Can you really say these countries are free? That's a big question. Now, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali have had enough of that. They're going to look to try to create their own currency, try to create their own group as the three countries, and try to move forward as countries that understand each other and want to actually work for the interest of the people. Let me know how you feel about this. It's always a great pleasure. Is this a good move for Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali? Should they actually slow down a little bit, or do you feel this is the right move for them? God bless.